Hello and welcome to the 8th edition of Ask the Gov. Let's begin. Our first question comes from Chris in Council Bluffs via Facebook. Chris asks, are you going to hold the Army Corps of Engineers' feet to the fire on their gross mismanagement of the dam and reservoir system? Well, right now when we're in the midst of the flood fight, we all have to work together to do all we can to protect the people and the property along the Missouri River. But I've heard a lot of concerns about the management of the Missouri River Basin by the Army Corps of Engineers, and once this episode is over, I think there's time to have a full-scale investigation so we can prevent these kinds of things from happening in the future. I would first like to thank all the volunteers who have helped with the flood fight in western Iowa. I'm especially proud of the way the Iowa National Guard, the emergency management people, and all the counties along the Missouri River have worked together with our Homeland Security emergency management people at the state level. And the tremendous outpouring of volunteers. People have been there to fill sandbags. I've been to Sioux City, Council Bluffs, in Hamburg, and I've seen the spirit in those communities and the way everybody's worked together and built that new levee system down at Hamburg, and we just all hope that through this process the levees will hold and that we can reduce the amount of damage as much as possible. Our second question is from Craig in Woodward via email. Craig asks, how will cities cover the gap in lost revenue that's felt under our business property plan? And if the state of Iowa is going to cover this gap, where will it obtain the funds to cover it? The commercial property tax in Iowa is the highest of any state. It's a real impediment to bring business and jobs to our state. We've put together a plan that over the next several years will reduce that to make our commercial property tax competitive with other states, and also to bring it more in sync with other classes of property. As part of this comprehensive plan, we reduced the commercial property tax 5% a year over the next 8 years to get it down to 60%. The state would provide an additional $50 million of property tax replacement to local governments so that they will not lose revenue. We anticipate by reducing the tax burden, we will see commercial development and the renovation and improvement of other commercial property. We also need to limit other classes of property because the way we value farmland is based on productivity with a 5-year rolling average on commodity prices, and commodity prices have gone up dramatically. 5 years ago, corn was still selling for $4 and something a bushel, and now it's over $7. So it's important that we limit, and agriculture and residential are tied together. And so if no action is taken, we'll see a $1.3 billion increase in property taxes for ag and residential over the next 5 years. That is not acceptable, and that's the reason why our comprehensive bill not only reduces the commercial property tax, it limits residential and agriculture property not going up more than 2%. Plus the state will fully fund the school aid formula, which wasn't done last year, and that was an additional property tax burden pushed onto all classes of property. So my goal is to make sure that we do not see an increase in any class of property, and that the state, through general fund revenues coming into the state, increases the reimbursement to local governments $50 million a year. That means $50 million next year, $100 million the year after, $150 the year after, $200 the year after that, $250 the year after that. The state has a $6 billion budget, and I believe that we have an obligation to protect local governments by providing this reimbursement for them as part of reducing the commercial property tax burden. It also will give us a real opportunity to attract more commercial business and jobs to communities all across the state. My top priority is to bring more business and jobs to Iowa and grow incomes for Iowa citizens. Our third question comes from Deb via Facebook. Deb asks, U.S. education statistics were just released and only 12% of senior high school students can pass proficiency tests. What can you do to ensure Iowa students do better, especially on American history? Our kids are no longer learning the history of our country. We're going to have an education summit in Iowa, July 25th and 26th. We have the U.S. Secretary of Education, Arne Duncan, coming as our guest keynote speaker. We've got former Governor Jim Hunt from North Carolina, Governor Christie from New Jersey, and many other experts. The goal here is to revitalize Iowa's education system and to focus on improving student achievement. Part of what we need to do is to make sure that we have clear standards and do accurate assessments to assess to make sure that our students are learning what they need to know and be able to do at each grade level. And certainly learning American history and the history of our country and our founding documents, the U.S. Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, are critically important if we're going to have an informed citizen and informed citizenry in this country in the future. I am very committed to doing all we can. Iowa used to have the highest achievement tests in the United States. Today we've dropped to middle of the pack. My goal is to make our education system #1 in America again. I am pleased to announce that Jason Glass, our State Director of Education, who has a great background in education reform from his time in Eagle County, Colorado, and also with Battelle for Kids. He is going to be the one that's going to handle the question and answer next week in the Ask the Governor. And he is also very involved in planning the Education Summit, July 25th and 26th. Thank you very much.